Emperor Soul. I just finished reading that tonight, and finished reading Animal Farm tonight. Read it in like a couple of hours, and then I also started on Andromeda Strain, and this one is fucking amazing and going to be a contender for Book of the Year, maybe. Slipping in there at the last second. It's the last book I'm reading for the year on the last day of the year, and it's like, oh damn. I'm like 85 pages in, and I already been. After the second chapter, I was like, I'm hooked, I'm in. I want to stop making a video about it already because it's so fucking good. Anyway, I'll get to that in time. Today we're talking about Emperor Soul, which is a Cosmere, Brandon Sanderson novella set on a planet. Can't remember what the name of the planet was, but it's the same planet from the Elantris book, which is one of the first books that Sanderson wrote in the Cosmere. It's like when he wasn't that good, he says. And so he would say it's good anyway. But basically got the influence from this. The story, it's about a girl who's named Shy, and she's like a prisoner. She's like a forger, and they put her in prison. She's committed all these like forgery crimes, and they should be putting her to death, but instead they're going to try to use her to save the Emperor because she has this ability. It's like a type of magic. It's called stamping, or like stamping, or soul stamping, and it's weird. Sanderson got the idea when he was in Asia. I don't remember what country it was, probably China. And they have these stamps like this, like the Emperor's stamps. I mean, I've heard about this really expensive jade stamp. It's like, it's supposed to be like whoever holds it is the ruler of China, and like apparently it's still like in effect right now. If somebody was to find this stamp, it's made out of like this rare jade, I think, too, and it's like you could be the ruler of China according to their laws. But like, there's all these stamps that they used to put on stuff. Like the emperors, if they seen like a nice artwork, like a statue or something, they would like stick their stamp on it and say that they approved of it, and they kind of like ruin it. It's kind of neat and fucked up in a way. Anyway, so he decided to use this as a type of like magic system, whereby it's very similar to soul casting in Stormlight Archive. Because they mentioned that all things exist in the physical, the cognitive, and the spiritual realm, which is straight from the Stormlight Archive. And they also had a thing where they're keeping her in this cell, prison cell. And the way soul stamping works is that you can, like, if you know enough about an object, you can, like, know the history of it, and you know, like, kind of the essence of it, you can convince it to be something else if it's feasible. Which is kind of hard to explain. Like you could convince... I don't know. How would you convince like a rock to not be there? Because that was kind of... Like, the reason they put her in a cell, it had like 44 different kinds of stone in it. It's because it would be harder to like learn the history of each kind of stone and like understand it or something. But then she was saying like the wall itself, after time, it becomes just one object. And then, you know... So... If you, like, for example, like she set this trap for these guys. She made the floor and the bed break, so she forged it so that there was like a leaky roof at one point, so she convinced it that nobody maintained the bed and the floor, so that it was like, had fractures in it and it was rotting away, so when the guard jumped on the bed, he just fell through the floor and she escaped. So, kind of like, and they would take like shitty vases and stuff, and they would like stamp them, and they would make them look like ornate vases and stuff, because things would... She had this window that was broken, and it used to be a stained glass window, and they replaced it with some cheap regular glass, and she turned it back into a stained glass window with a stamp by forging it. So it's kind of weird. Also, it's like you can forge people, but that's even more rare, and she had only done it to herself because she knows her own soul well enough that she could do it to herself. She has all these like stamps that let her kind of turn into a different person. Like there's one that lets her, I guess at one point in her life she went and trained with these monks and learned a bunch of martial arts, and her name became Shai Zan, so she's got like a Shai Zan stamp that'll turn her into like a martial artist. I think she puts it on her arm, and it kind of sinks into the skin, and she turns it and then pulls it away or something like that. And there's one that's like she's a survivalist, and one where she's like a beggar to like disguise herself and stuff. So, to make a soul stamp using the soul stone or whatever, it's kind of like soapstone with red blood looking stuff inside of it. Which is like you carve it and you burn it and it hardens it. But it's like you'd have to know everything about a person pretty much. Which, how can you know? You'd have to kind of guess and hope that you get it right. So she's like testing out on a guy that knew him to see if it lasts longer than a minute. And if it does, she knows she's on the right track. And she kind of like figured it out through that. And like the reason he became the emperor and like his motivations and all kind of like the way he feels about things. She has to like kind of figure that out from the letters that people wrote about him and stuff. And communications and like books about him that he wrote and things. And I don't even know how that would make sense, but I guess it's kind of cool. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. There's also a thing about a painting that she forged, and she was really clever about it. Like she replaced. Oh, there's a scepter too. Like she was so good, the forged scepter that she made, they thought it was the real thing, and they had it on display, and she had the real one somewhere. And then the painting, she took the original and burned it and left a forgery that everybody was convinced was real, because the guy that the original painter didn't like the Empire, and he didn't like them using his painting in their palace or whatever, so he wanted to steal it and burn it. It's pretty sweet. It's really short though. It's only like 180 pages or something like that. It's like 120 on my phone, because I think it has more words in it than a normal page or something. I don't know. Yeah, I guess that's all I wanted to say on Emperor's Soul. It's pretty good. Start this other video now.